What's that? Good to see each of you this morning. There we are. We're on now. So it's good to see each of you this morning. When there's a combined Sunday school class opening, the feel in the auditorium is significantly different. There's a lot more folks present, a lot more teenagers. So it's good to see each of you. I trust each of you had a good week. I hear tell that the apple dumpling baking project went over really well this year. Sold out like almost immediately, so that's a good thing. So that was a good fundraising event. But it's good to see each of you this morning in this combined Sunday school class, Sunday school hour. So let's open our service here in prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity and the privilege again to be in your house. We thank you for the rain that we're getting outside. We thank you for the freedoms that we have to meet and to worship and to fellowship and to hear your word. We thank you for missionaries and the opportunity we have this month to focus on missionaries and the work that they do. We thank you for so many young missionaries that are willing to put aside careers here in the United States to serve you in other lands. And we just thank you for that. So we just pray now that we'd put aside any distractions and that our focus would be on what you would want us to learn this morning. In your name, amen. Sunday school openings through the month of October, we're making a focus on an individual. I said something about this man 3 weeks ago, Richard Wurmbrand. So if you haven't heard of him, he was in Romania during the Iron Curtain, during the occupation of the Nazis and then the communists, and suffered horrible persecution. And so I just wanted to, in leading up to the International Day of Prayer, which I believe is the first Sunday in November, just wanted to read a quote from this man each week. So this week I have, it was a little conversation between him and his wife. But he says, "My wife and I were present at this Congress. Sabina told me, 'Richard, stand up and wash away the shame from the face of Christ. They are spitting in his face.' I said to her, 'If I do so, you lose your husband.' She replied, 'I don't wish to have a coward as a husband.'" This took place in 1945, right after the World War II ended. The Romanian communist government had taken control, and they were holding an event called the Congress of Cults. So many Romanian religious leaders stood up at this event, praised communism, pledged their support, showed really no backbone at all. But on this day, Richard Wurmbrand stood up and on live radio, and this would take tremendous courage to do this, defended his faith. And if you look at the trajectory from 1945 through the mid to late 60s, 2 decades of persecution is what followed him and his family. And something I would say, the persecution they endured joyfully. So just something to keep in mind. We have it really good in this country, and a lot of persecution took place in the past, is taking place today. But this morning, I really enjoy Missions Emphasis Month, but I'm also humbled, especially when we see young couples, young families willing to serve the Lord in foreign countries. And today, that's the case with the Sanford family. I ran into Drew over at the Napa store with his father-in-law here a couple of weeks ago, and just to see young families willing to serve the Lord in other countries, just a real tribute. And there's a lot of problems we have in this country, but we still have that going for us. You look at our missionary count, there's a lot of young women, and there's a lot of young families. We need to be very thankful for that. We need to pray for them and support them in any way we can. So I'd like to, at this point, welcome Drew and turn it over to him.
All right, thanks, John. You know, if you wanted to bring your Napa store over to Papua New Guinea, I'd really appreciate it. Make my life so much easier. Holy cow. Well, we are so grateful to be here with you guys. This last year has been a very trying year for both Grace and I, and the Lord's really put us through some hard times, but it's been really awesome to see how He provides and how He shows Himself faithful to us, how He loves on us in the perfect way in the moment. And some of that has even been shown this last month being able to spend time with you guys, and we got to go over to Pastor Suttle's house the other day and sit down with him and Katie, and they just loved on us. We were just so grateful for you two. Thank you so much. And I will tell you guys, though, you've made it difficult on us to give you any kind of an update, because over this last month, you guys have had more conversations with me about stuff that I haven't even thought through yet in regards to what's going on in PNG. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do over here? So we'll see how this goes. We're going to play a little story time and maybe go through some of the different things that we haven't put in the updates. At the end of this, then, too, we'll do a little question and answer. Joy has been after me for a month now. I've got all the hard questions for you. So you're going to have to get your hand up faster than she does. All right. Kristen, you said this would work. There you go. All right. Little recap here. This is where we first moved into. This is Lapulo. This is actually where we live now, but this is where we first flew into when we got there. My pointer, I got to turn it on first. I got to be smarter than this stuff. That's the house, if you can see it. It's a lot bigger in person. We spent our first 2 weeks there in quarantine, similar, just like you guys know, COVID was happening back then, and so it was really nice to drop in. We weren't allowed to move. We had our groceries delivered, our trash taken out. It was amazing. It's not pictured, but there's a tree right on the other side of that where every bird in Papua New Guinea would sit and squawk at about 4:30. And it really made the transition, the time transition, really easy for us. So we flew into here, spent just a month there, really kind of trying to get acclimated to the country, but you really can't in a month. You can't talk to anybody. You can't, you don't know what's going on. That went way too fast. Then we made this transition. You're the worst. You're the worst. Oh my gosh. We flew up from the Gold Star then to the green flag, Madang. Goroka is up in the mountains. And then Madang, as you can see, right down on the coast. It's beautiful. Now you guys are killing me, Smalls. This is where we went to the next time. This was our house right here. And you can do it. There it is. That's the view from our front porch. Man, for a kid that grew up in the desert, that was pretty incredible. I loved that. We saw dolphins. We saw marlin. I spent countless hours in that diving in the water there with this guy. Rocky is his name. Rocky Balboa. He is an incredible, incredible teacher. He taught me to talk Pidgin. He's a really good friend of mine now. We spent so many hours together, and he was so gracious and in just dealing with me as I fumbled through his native language. He doesn't have a talk place language. Pidgin is the only one he knows, except for he does know a little bit of English. He's actually quite skilled in English. He's a tailor by trade. I should have worn the shirt that he made me. It would have given you all seizures. It's all color, all big, bright pattern. So much fun. But this guy, he was saved, 2 years ago? Maybe, a year and a half ago now. He has a hunger for the Lord. Every time, especially, I loved how the Lord did this. We were in Madang. We were there for right around 8 months of the year that we spent in PNG. And as I grew in my Pidgin, all he wanted to talk about was the Lord. He grew up quasi-Lutheran. Really, all that meant was you had to show up somewhere on Sunday and you had to get baptized as a kid, and that's about it as far as that religion goes for him. But now, got saved a year and a half ago, and now all he wants to talk about is the Lord, and primarily positional truth. Security found in Jesus Christ. that is totally different than what you find over there in many situations. In fact, we asked, Grace can tell you the story better, but there was a ladies' Bible study, and they put it out to the ladies, his wife and mother included. What happens if a person gets saved and then dies before they repent? What if they killed somebody and then got on a bus and that bus rolled over and they died? What would happen? And wife and mother, we'll see his wife in a second. She said, he's going to hell then. That's what's going to happen. But he is able to correct that, and through that kind of stuff, you don't expect people to be Charles Spurgeon the day after they get saved, right? So you work with them little by little, and the Lord gave us that opportunity to do that. And talking to him just about, Ephesians, the first chapter, 13th verse, it says that you have been sealed by the Holy Spirit of promise. And what that means. And it was so nice of the Lord to be able, normally you don't get that opportunity to get into stuff like that because you're not in this town long enough to know Pidgin long enough, good enough to be able to have those conversations. But the Lord was gracious for us to be able to do that. And just dive in with a little bit of positional truth. That's his wife Ruth right there with Emmy. They chew, they call it buai, a betel nut, and it turns their teeth red like that. It's actually, I think it's tasty. It's pretty good. Makes your mouth so dry though. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. But we love them. They are some of our closest friends, the people that we are really looking forward to hanging out with again when we go back. Like I said, I spent countless time in the water. That's another one of my friends, Michael. This is their primary source of food, is not the marlin and the dolphin that are out a little bit further, but that was maybe 15 inches, and it was only about that thick. And they have to go out every night. Him and Rocky would go out every night and go diving, looking for anything that was on the reef. There's probably close to 1,000 people that fished our reef, so there wasn't a whole lot of fish left that were bigger than the size of your hand. That's the measurement you go by. Shoot the size of your hand. They were super excited to get that fish and to eat it, and he showed us how to cook it. He came over with his family, and we put that on the fire, and it was delicious. We had a few more. We had some squid and stuff too that we got that day, but without that, they really don't eat. The only other thing that they do is they have gardens, and I will let you jump up with Covina here. You can talk a little bit about that as well.
Surprise.
There you go.
Okay.
All of the stuff.
Here we are. So this is Covina. She was my main language helper there. And it's interesting. I don't think that we intend to do this in the States, but you think third world country, tribal people, their intelligence level is a little bit less than ours because we're educated, right? You would never say that out loud, but we all, I don't know, you find that a lot. This woman knows 4 languages fluently. All of them, well, barring people like Rocky who are in a unique situation, they have what's called a talk place, and that's their immediate small village. I think we probably told you when we were first coming through here that there are over 850 separate languages in Papua New Guinea. For a small country, that means everybody's got their little village that they grew up in, so they have a talk place. And then she got married, and she learned her husband's talk place because he was from a different area. And then she moved to Madang, and she learned Pidgin. And then as she's been there longer working with the missionaries that have come through, she speaks English really well. So 4 different languages, no formal teaching. She just picks it up as she goes along, and it just is astounding. But she met with me every day, and if I couldn't come to her, she'd come to me, and brought us. She lived right down the road. There was one day, I know probably, I apologize. You guys all saw that really bad blister on my leg. That was from a mosquito bite, and so anytime I went to her house, this amazing woman would chop down a tree so that I'd have a place to sit where there would be no mosquitoes. It's like, please don't change your landscaping for me. But she would do it, and then I'd sit down, and then another one would grow, and she'd chop that one down. Anyway, so, but she taught me so patiently and so well. She's another one that just absolutely loves the Lord. There was a church in the community across the street that at one point was very biblically based, and somewhere along the line, there were a lot of works-based teachings that kind of came through, and it became about what you wore, it became about what you ate, it became about all these things that you did instead of being about the Lord. And they actually kicked her out because somebody saw her walking to church one day, or to work one day, she was wearing gym shorts. And so they kicked her out of the church, and it became this big thing. So then the missionaries on the base took her in and just started their own little church service there. And it was amazing to see her mindset switch to truth. And as different things would come up, I would be trying to not be culturally offensive, especially the women. You have to really watch what you wear there. And she was the one that could have a good balance of, okay, let's not offend the culture, but let's not also fuel the intense legalism that had kind of taken over that community. And she did it with such grace, and yeah, it was just a huge blessing. Where do I point this to make it change? Okay. Oh, too far. Nope, stay. Okay, this is Rita. Her husband was the one that Drew, was behind Drew with the fish. So, yeah, Michael and Rita are also very, very new believers, also very, very hungry to know the Lord. You guys have probably heard of that series, The Chosen, that came out a little bit ago. It's a video series that walks through the ministry and the life of Christ, and they do it really beautiful and really, really well. And so we actually would have Michael and Rita come over to our house on Wednesday nights, and I would cook them pizza. They love pizza. So we'd cook pizza and watch a couple episodes of The Chosen. And what a cool thing it was to see these stories that we've grown up with, right? We've known them since we were children. You kind of, we liked watching The Chosen because it brought those alive for us, but then to also see them through the eyes of these people was astounding. And one of my favorite parts, when Peter's pulling in, the miracle of the fish. He's pulling in all the fish, and that's their livelihood, right? And I hadn't even thought of that. That is what they live off of. And she is sitting there and she's crying. She's got tears running down her face. Look at the fish, laughing, crying, the whole thing. And it was just, then I'm crying, because she's so touched by it. It's like that miracle. To me, I don't know, it means something to us, but when it is so tangible and personal to them, the joy and just absolutely, she was so thrilled with it all. It was just a sweet, sweet thing to go through with her. But yeah, so she and her husband, we spent a lot of time with them and their 4 kids. There it is, that's her baby, Shannon. Shannon did not like me, but Shannon loved Drew. But we just had to throw that in because he's so cute. Next. Okay, so yeah, this is at Michael and Rita's house. Once again, these people don't have money. They live day to day figuring out what food that they will get. And yet they say, you know what? Come on over, we're going to cook up a meal. So they had me come over and learn how to cook up a true P&G meal. They call it a moo-moo, and you put it all together in banana leaves and cook it in an old tire rim. But yeah, so they spent a lot of time with me that day, and then we all got in a boat and they took us to some tiny island. It's just stuff that people pay millions of dollars, to go on these vacations and stuff, and that's just the way they live, and they included us in it, and it was just a very sweet thing. There's Jin. Are you wanting? Did you put that picture of Roswitha in there? Oh, okay. That's the one. I had a good story for that, so I'm going to tell you anyways. Some of you may have read it in our our newsletters, but it's one of my funniest moments of language learning. So there's this little old lady, Roswitha. She's feisty lady. And she also worked with me almost every day to learn Pidgin. And so as you gain more vocabulary and you're learning how to put sentences together, a good way to stretch yourself is to try and describe something from our own culture in a way that will help them to understand it, because it's just so like out of their box in their mind. It's, we're learning all the stuff about them firsthand, but they also love to hear about us. They love to hear medical stories and stuff like that. But so then there was one day, well, it was Thanksgiving. We had been so sick, and I hadn't even put together a Thanksgiving meal for my family. And so I'm sitting there in my language session with Roswitha, and so I just start telling her about Thanksgiving in America and, why we do it, and then launch into the food, the cranberry sauce, the potatoes, and all that stuff. She's tracking. And I said, okay, and then you get bread, and you cut it up really small, and you put a bunch of spices in there. You mix it all up. You get some butter, and you pour it in there, and you mix it so the bread's kind of soggy. She's like, all right, anyway, kind of grossed out a little bit. It's like, and then you get turkey. Get a handful of that bread, and you shove that up the turkey, and her eyes open. And she was so good about correcting me if I was miscommunicating. She said, no, you cut the turkey open and you put, I said, no. You shove that up the turkey, and her mouth dropped open, and she says, and then you eat it? I was like, yes, we do. And it was that minute that I realized that, stuffing is kind of a nasty thing. But anyways, yeah. Anyways, I'll turn it back over to you.
I told you they'd be stories that don't make it into the update. Oh, my word. You'll never look at stuffing the same way again. Oh, gosh. Okay, so this is Rocky and Ruth's daughter, Jinjin. She's 12. That was our kids' best friend while they were there. They hung out all the time, and they loved each other very much. This is us. We're actually leaving right now, leaving Madang and going back up to Goroka, to the first town I showed you. During this whole time in Madang, we slowly realized that the Lord didn't have tribal missions for us. There was lots of health issues that popped up for both myself and for Grace, and we've updated you a number of times on those, so I'll skip the gory details of that. But there was that. There was also there's a really cool thing that's happening in the missions world right now, where, especially in Papua New Guinea, we've been there for so long as new tribes, ethnos here, new tribes there, that there are mature churches now that are wanting to send out their own missionaries and go to the neighboring tribes, but they don't have any way to do translation. They don't have any way to print lessons or biblical texts or anything. But they can do the teaching. They can do the discipleship. They have a much better grasp of culture than we do. And so right now there's a push for an idea of taking a missionary who can do all of those things, translate and print out stuff, and go with a tribal group, a tribal church, and then go to the next tribe. And that helps them to see, okay, how is this done? We know how it was done for us, and you came in and taught us, but seeing it and doing it are two different things. So we can partner together with them in order to do that. What that means, though, is that missionary coming in, the expat, they spend probably 10 to 15 hours a day behind a computer, and they don't really do any of the teaching or the discipleship other than a little bit with that believing church already. My gifts are not sitting down. My gifts are definitely not sitting behind a computer all day. That's kind of like pulling teeth. So the Lord can use both of those things, our health and just the realization that what we would be able to do was not necessarily what we thought and what we would be gifted in. So, okay, Lord, now what? Is this you moving us? Is this you changing our direction? Are we supposed to just walk with you through this? What do you think? So we started calling different people from home, pastors and elders and parents, and what do you guys think about this? And to a person, we've been waiting for this call. We've been wanting this call. We've been wondering if we should call you to tell you need to get out and get out fast. Like, not come home, get out, but you need to change roles. God does not have you in tribal missions. We wouldn't have lasted. 2 months we wouldn't have lasted. Health was just deteriorating so fast for both of us that it wouldn't have worked. And like I said, again, not wanting to sit behind a desk and just kind of follow along that realm. So this is us. We're taking off from here, and the Lord did a really cool thing. He moved us back here to Lapilome. We now live in this house right here. This is a duplex, so we live on this far side over yonder. It's a beautiful place. It has a great view of the valley that I forgot to take a picture of and put in here, so I apologize for that. But the day that we called our leadership, our local leadership, and said, hey, we're thinking about changing roles, we're wondering if God doesn't have us going into tribal missions. He's actually sort of related to me, my Uncle Gary. He said, hey, I've got a guy with me right here. He's starting up a new department, for lack of a better term, in New Tribes on the field of P&G. It's called Tech Services, and he wants you to be a part of it. Well, what are we talking about? What is Tech Services? Tech Services is we go and we build from scratch houses, fix generators, do automotive repairs and replacements, all the logistics of doing all of that stuff, electrical, solar, plumbing, anything that is more than changing a light bulb, that's out of the realm of the missionaries. They really don't know what they're doing in that. We had 2 missionaries. This is a missionary's house in a place called Kaje. They presented the gospel about a year before this picture. This was back in January. I got to go. They threw this house together, and I seriously think that's how they did it. They just threw it up there. Nails everywhere, half bent over, just miserable. I would have never wanted my family in this house. You could have fallen through multiple places in the floor, and this has only been here, I think this house has been up for 5 years. There was a lack of skill, and also, though, a huge issue is termites and moisture. We're using plywood he's using plywood for his floor. That's plywood on the interior of the walls there. All this is plywood on the inside of that. Termites just love it. They love it. And they eat it up. We had a guy, not this house, but in another place where he built a kitchen, and 2 years later, it fell apart, and he had to rebuild it again from scratch. $2,000 is what it cost to build that kitchen initially. It just went down the tubes in 2 years. So that's our role now. We're moving into that. I'm going to be both on this building side of doing this, but more so than that, on the logistical side of getting people who, there are some guys that have been building houses here in P&G, not this house, but others, for the last 10 or 15 years. They know all the tricks of the trade. They know what materials are good to use. So I'll be working in getting them to the places that they need to be in the planning stages of that. This is what we turned that house into. It's not done yet, but they call it kappa. Anything that is not tube steel is kappa. Copper. It totally threw me off because that's not copper. So tin siding. You can see, and maybe we can make these pictures. You can come and take a look at them on the laptop later. They weave bamboo together, cut it really thin and weave bamboo together, and that's what the typical tribal house, that's their wall. It keeps some of the wind out. That's about all that it does. Rain and bugs and everything else you can imagine, spiders, they still come through there pretty easily. So we did about a week on this guy's house. That's John, that's the missionary right there. an incredible missionary, a discipler's heart, a love for the Lord, a love for his people. He will stay up till, I think the earliest he came in was like 2 in the morning, hanging out with his guys all day long, just teaching them, living life with them, discipling them. It was really a privilege to go in and to help him out. What else was I going to say on that? Sorry, I'm just getting, my joke for this month was that I'm just barely getting to put coherent sentences back together. I lost my train of thought. What's that? Oh yeah, go ahead, please. Please go ahead.
Drew speaks in bullet points.
That's true.
I give details. But when I shared with the, I forget the acronym, the Ladies Mission Group, yes, that. Just realizing that even though we had sent out a newsletter about, our role change and all of that, like maybe there were still some questions, some gaps there, and just really wanting to emphasize the graciousness of the Lord, that, sometimes he does send us into places and roles where it's like, okay, not my strong point, but he's going to walk me through it, right? And he's always faithful to do that. He's done that for us, and he would do that again if we did go to a tribe. I know that he would. But his graciousness in allowing us to come to a point where it was, okay, had we, Drew referenced where local churches in PNG are sending their own missionaries with, one of the new tribes missionaries, but they're primarily doing the work. But that would mean we learn that initial tribal language so that we could speak with the believers there and help them out, and then go with them and learn another tribal language. And we were just struggling one day at a time through Pidgin, and Pidgin is literally one of the easiest languages in the entire world. So recognizing that was going to be a big struggle for us just in our linguistic ability. And then, like Drew said, he's one that he's a go-getter. He's a get up and do things, not necessarily the guy that wants to be behind the computer. I'm that person, but then I would be homeschooling children, so I couldn't be, the one to take on that role as well. And just the graciousness of the Lord to say, you know what? This isn't your strong point. This isn't what you enjoy. He would have to make daily choices to walk with, and we do anyway, but to just find joy in that. Whereas he has a degree in building construction technology. He's had jobs throughout the last decade and a little bit longer where he has got hands-on experience of building and fixing, and he can kind of do it all just by experience. And he spent years with his grandpa learning how to do carpentry and all that stuff. And so just the really kind gift of the Lord to say, in all of these years where we felt like we were just kind of filling our time so that we could get overseas, he was preparing Drew for this incredible role that he would be able to step into literally overnight and just jump right in, because he had the experience, and it's something that brings him joy. And as a wife, I'm sure you guys can understand my joy in knowing that, okay, I just love seeing him come home every day with all of his stories, all the problems he solved, all the things that, they did, and, hearing the missionaries come back and just, man, thank you. They're the ones that are loving sitting behind a computer, and to have somebody to come alongside and say, you know what, you do that, spend your time, go out with the people, keep learning your language, we've got your house, we'll take care of that for you. The gift of being able to partner with them that way and walk side by side, that's what support missions is. And it's a privilege for us to be able to jump into that and to be able to link arms with them and help the gospel go forward, because those that are in the tribe aren't spending their time trying to figure out how to get their floors so that they can walk on them. We can do that so that they can focus on translating and teaching and all the other things. So, details.
She's the best, isn't she? Hey, stay up here. So how long do we have? What time do we get done? Oh, dang it, I'm so sorry. I wanted to leave more time than that. Any questions, any burning Joy? Questions? Nothing?
How many people are on your tech team, and what kind of are you doing?
Okay, so on the tech team, we have 10 guys in country, and we have another 5 that are looking to join. They're on the track to come with us at some point. COVID has made it really difficult to get in and out of the country. In fact, even though our plans are to go back first week of January, right now P&G is shut down. So you guys can be praying for us in that we be able to get back if that's what the Lord has. So, and pray for the community, yeah. COVID is really, really hitting hard right now. So yeah, 15 total right now. We are always looking for more guys though. So if you have that kind of experience and you want to go and learn how not to, when you need a problem or when you need a solution, run to Lowe's and go and pick up your tool and come back. If you want to learn how to do it, just make it up as you go along. We'd love to have you. Yes?
Perhaps you can clarify a bit for me. As I understand your presentation, you are assisting missionaries with specific housing and those types of needs. Is that step one? Am I correct in
Yeah.
that regard? Does this entail having to, you've helped missionary X, and now do you have to move to another location to help another
Yeah.
missionary? What's the nature there?
Sure. Sorry, I kind of blew through that a little bit. So we are living right now, right, let me go back. It didn't work. At Lopulo, where, right here, this is where also NTMA is where the plane leaves from. So what we are going to do is we're going to jump on a plane, fly to wherever that missionary is, and either build their house from scratch if they're just moving into the tribe, or rebuild it in that guy's case. And it doesn't have to be just houses. It could be cars. It could be computers, airstrips. It could be, well, not for me computers, but some of the guys on our team do that. So it'll entail a lot of different aspects. And what we'll do is we'll go and spend a week or 2 weeks at a time, do that project, work on that project, come back, spend some time with our family, and either, if it's a longer project, go back and finish up, or go to another place. So it's a lot of travel back and forth for all of us, and a lot on our families too, so you can be praying for them. Yes, sir.
Being in a remote area, are they aware of what's going on in the world around them?
No.
All these situations, because I hope they're aware that where we're at in the church age and what they have to look forward to.
Sure. So in the places that we work, places that we've presented the gospel, the goal is to not just, hey, Christ came and died for you, and if you believe it, you get to go be with him someday. We'll see you later, bye. But also bring them to maturity. And so part of that is there's something waiting for you. You have an inheritance. You have a home. That this is no longer it. This group, your village here, that's no longer your family. Your family is now the rest of the church. And some of that could include the people around you, and in a lot of situations it does, but to bring them to that point. So that's a goal for us. Not every place that we work has been presented with the gospel yet. There's many reasons for that. Go ahead, you can.
If I understand correctly, like you're talking about, where we are in the timeline, Christ is coming back. Are they aware? And I think overall, it's not for them. They're a very community-centered people. So where they are, that's what they understand. And so it's not as much about the grand timeline in the world and knowing about what's going on, but they have spent so much of their life in fear day to day, appeasing the spirits, all that stuff, so that when they have that freedom, to them the missionaries will communicate the grand timeline, but they already have an eternal perspective. You talk to them and it's just like, maybe you should take some precautions when you're cutting down that tree. They go, nah, shortcut. They just want to go see him, and it's a little terrifying, but that's how they live. And one of the most encouraging things about engaging with our PNG friends is that they bring Christ into every moment of every day in ways that for us it's like, it doesn't seem like it mattered, but like I would be hanging out my laundry, hanging it on the line and looking at the sky. Is it gonna rain? Is it not gonna rain? Am I just wasting my time? Talking to the lady that, lives next door, and she says, well, hang out your laundry. God's the one that holds the rain. If it's gonna rain, bring your clothes in. But it's just like in the little tiny things, they think about Christ. And when they go out to their garden and they find something to eat that day, they thank Christ for it. And so it's a constant, they bring him into every moment of every day. So maybe not focus as much on the grand timeline of the church age, but they talk about him constantly, and every conversation points to when we get there, because it's a hard life. They are sick with sicknesses that we don't even have to think about. They have to work so hard just to put food on their table. There's a lady, Koslekame, that I got to know right before we left, and she was just trying to sell veggies every day just to make a few bucks to put her kids in school. And we just got word a week and a half ago that she unexpectedly passed away. So now she's got kids. They don't have a mom anymore that's taking care of them. There goes their education. That means that they're done with that. And it's just a different kind of hardship. And I think that breeds such an eternal perspective in them that is an encouragement, and it convicts me on a daily basis as I interact with them. So it's kind of a yes and no, not the grand scheme, but they have a different eternal perspective than we see in Western countries.
I think that's what's matters as far as
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. We're comfortable. Yeah. Mark,
Let's do, go ahead.
you had your hand up.
I was wondering how many missionaries that you would be working with to go into,
All of them. There are 3 or 4 centers throughout PNG and Drew Services, all those centers, and each center is the base for multiple missionaries in the tribe of that region. And so they have guys stationed at all those centers, but also if something big comes up, he can also do that. It's a really cool thing that, and that's not a fire alarm. It scares me every time. But he does get to service the whole country, and I don't even know. Do you know how many missionaries?
I think there's somewhere like 500 missionaries on the field or something like that.
Total, but families.
Total. I don't know what those numbers are.
Between 80 and 100 is what I heard last. 80 and 100 families in tribes right now.
Yeah, so in tribes, 80 and 100 families, somewhere in there. And I think we've got 10 houses that we're going to build when we get back for more teams going into new locations. So there's a lot of work to be done. Lots of stuff. Okay, let's pray and, yeah, go ahead.
Please give us a health update, what that looks like for you guys the next 12 months, and how we can pray for you as you get ready to transition to Michigan.
I have no idea what health looks like for us. Okay, you can go.
Yes, we've had lots of health difficulties, and so that was a big driving force in us coming home, because we don't want to just exist there. We want to be able to jump in with the strength that is necessary to serve there and help out. So we will get back to Michigan in about a week and a half, and we already have, I think we will start off right away with 3 appointments in that first week. We have about a total of 5 different specialists between the 2 of us that we need to go and get some significant things looked at, things that we probably, we wouldn't have gone over if we knew that was going to be a problem. We would have gotten taken care of before we went, but it all just kind of popped up this last year. Stress will do that to you, I've heard. But yeah, so we're going to be starting into specialists, lots of doctor's appointments. So if you guys can be praying that we find answers to those quickly, that no maybe major surgeries will be required. We don't know about that yet. And yeah, just find some answers that will give us what we need to know as far as going back. We would like to have options so that we can thrive there and not just survive there. So those are the biggest, I would say, requests that we have. There's a lot of big question marks right now, but we're just praying that we can find simple answers quickly and get what we need to move forward from here. Does that?
Is that good? Yeah. Okay, let's pray and we'll be done then. Father, thank you so much for your love. Lord, how you take care of us, how you have taken care of us. Lord, I thank you for this body of believers here in Huntington. And man, how they've just showed their love for us and showed their love for you. And they take such good care of us, Lord. Man, words just can't tell how grateful we are. I pray that as we open your word today and Pastor Suttles comes up and just lays out what's on his heart, Lord, that we just open our hearts to you and learn from you. Lord, be encouraged by you today and what you have for us. Thank you again for this life that we get to live, and I pray that as we do it, it would be glorifying to you. In Jesus' name, amen.